We are of that generation that basically escaped the Vietnam problems and issues and the war ourselves because of the fact that we were just old enough. The day I went down to go register for the draft was 2 weeks after it hit. I'd already stopped the draft. And they said, you can go home. We don't have the draft anymore. I said, fucking hey, bye. Never see me again. And so if you were born in 1958 or 59, you're the only 2 years in America that don't have you registered or in selective service. So we are the unwanted generation. And we knew that.
We had a lot of fun back in those days. We were learning about life. We didn't know enough to be afraid. You know, we thought we were going to live forever. We thought we were going to be young forever, or at least leave a pretty corpse.
Those were good times, and if I'd have known they were, been some of the best times of my life, I'd have made a better effort to remember them.
I mean, that's one of the things about time is it's passed equally for all of us.
Yes.
So that's good.
Yes.
Overproduced record, our first one, it kind of made the band explode. Everybody went different directions.
We'd all get opinionated and have different influences and argue about how a song should be or what song we should or should not do. It's part of playing together. Kids ain't going to play together perfect every day.
The drummer's going to blow up and move on, and the guitarists are going to argue. It's just part of the band thing.
It's real odd that this band broke up. They had some talent. They looked good. They sounded good. They had a lot of energy, a lot of life. But the forces that caused bands to break up acted upon them before they became famous, and it's just kind of a shame.
Tunneled by all these senseless observations.
I quit. I don't know why I did it, but I did it several times.
I was 20, and I was rather emotional, and I got really pissed off, and then I quit the band.
Hey!
I think they had more talent than a lot of bands that did become famous.
Blow out on the cosmic highway of rock and roll.
When it was over for me, Earl was out, and we played one last gig. That was really the swan song. That was okay, and I took off to Berlin. I had one foot still in Mississippi and one foot already on that plane to Europe. I mean, I was out of there.
You could hold it down, you could keep the time on Mama's piano. You played those Floyd Kramer lines, muddy water flowing up and down your spine.
The neatest thing about Bonnington Truce to me was the energy it could generate sometime between the way everyone worked together. I'm Patrick Wallace. I played guitar, sang, wrote songs in Bonnington Truce.
But you have to pay the piper once those scales get stripped. So tell me, where are you now, my St. Christopher?
Bonnington Truce, the musicers your parents warned about.
We did not know punk existed. My name's Earl Lundy, and I sang with Bonnington Truce.
Since you lost your home, lost your home.
The late 70s, early 80s was fairly good. A lot of places to play, a lot of people coming out listening to music, so we flourished for a moment.
My name's Jeffrey Bridges. I played bass in Bonnington Truce.
Took the ups and downs that helped me pass the time. Too many roads and way too many white lines. Whiskey River flowing till it took your mind.
Music takes you where it takes you, and you have to decide kind of what you want to be doing. I think everybody's more or less doing what they want to do now, you know. I'm Hugh O'Neill, and I played drums with Bonnington Truce.
Got the bill, get down to kill the pain. You never even felt the rain, but it kept on falling till it all washed down the drain. Tell me, where are you now?
My name is Ben Young. I'm from Mississippi.
Where are you now, my St. Christopher? Baby. Are you there all alone?
Mississippi is many things to many people. And to me, well, it's just a fond memory.
Bonnington Truce. I don't know anything about that band whatsoever.
Nobody's heard of them.
Yeah, I've seen pictures, and that's about all I remember of it.
Bonnington Truce, the untold story, the unknowns.
I never actually saw Bonnington Truce that I can remember, but they were always kind of a legend.
I've heard their stuff, and I couldn't turn it off fast enough. Made me sick.
I would say that Bonnington Truce probably has more of an influence on my kids.
Do y'all even have any recordings?
Did they have any CDs out?
Didn't they cut an album, like maybe make a cassette or something?
I did not play on the record or the album, but I played with the band.
My name's Hank Ross. I am the attorney for the boys in the band.
I'm glad to see that they hit it big.
Bonnington Poots, what's the deal?
Diverse personalities come together, make a bunch of noise.
I couldn't believe how good these guys were.
Young, college-age kids dressed like punks playing Wild Thing.
They never played a set. They just sort of stormed it.
They were full of life and energy.
High energy, very fast-paced, very loud.
Bonnington Truce was a great band.
Yes, it was in the news and the papers. They were a great band.
One of the hot college bands of that time.
Extremely talented, extremely smart, extremely bright. You never knew what was going to come down the pipe.
And did something that no other band anywhere near us was doing.
Pure, unadulterated rock and roll. And you could dance to it.
Jumping up and down, having a great time dancing. They were always the most fun to dance to.
Hey man, it's all music.
I have gotten more distance out of stories about that time and Mississippi and that band when Bonnington Truce started. Mm-hmm. You were there.
Yes.
Do you remember?
No. After we all entered the witness protection program, I didn't think any of this was supposed to be discussed.
We're making a documentary film about a band that no one's ever heard of.
I recommend this as therapy for anyone.
Fantastic people who collectively were known as Bonnington Truce, among other things, depending on who you talk to.
The Enema 5.
Bonnington Truce had its own niche.
The initial results of which were pretty catastrophic.
Snapper in the comments.
Yes, we spun Bonnington Truce out of whole cloth.
It's hard to find love in the me generation.
We just made it up. It was just, it's not like anybody told us how to do it or what to do.
We played casuals around town and corporate kind of gigs. We wore tuxedos.
It was really an eclectic mix of music.
Some will be lost and some will be found.
Band from the great and sovereign state of Mississippi. The much loved and more hated Bonnington Truce.
We were sort of a garage band.
The garage band analogy is pretty damn close.
It's not about playing well on the instrument. It's about being a rock and roll group that's playing off the audience.
And we did originals, which everyone said you couldn't do.
We were good and fast and loud.
Everyone's a star of the movie from their book.
Earl Patrick and I come from the same discipline, which is none whatsoever.
3 lead singers.
We were one band, but we could have easily been 3 bands with, 3 frontmen.
3 bands.
3 flavors, because it definitely was one wall of sound.
Pat is Pat, and Ben is Ben, and Earl is Earl, and they can sing together, but it's like having 3 lead singers in the band. What are you going to do? What are we going to do?
Try to keep faith and not lose patience.
We had no rules whatsoever, except that it had to sound good to us.
At one time, we had 3 guitar players, like Leonard Skinner.
Bonnington Truce was a special band.
We started off with a boy from Vicksburg named Tony Mize.
One of the best inspirational bands I've ever played with.
And I think they fired him and hired me.
And Bonnington Truce shoot up and spit out drummers.
I kind of was the preppy guy in the band.
I played the mean, tall, ugly, bald-headed guy. I always get those parts.
That was the propaganda machine for Bonnington Truce.
Playing in Bonnington Truce, I never really had life expectancy beyond 40.
We were kind of grungy.
We were definitely a college-type band.
We had our own style.
We did whatever we wanted to.
I got up on stage in my bathrobe and mumbled in Latin. I'm going to start them there on stage at Bonnington Truce.
Without the videotape, there's no proof that Bonnington Truce ever existed.
I try to keep faith, not lose patience. It's hard to hold on to love in the me generation.
Half of them are dead and half of them are still living.
You can't play that in the suburbs. You can't play that here.
Pop music.
Pop music.
Southern pop was the term, was it not?
Mississippi redneck punk underground thing.
It's definitely had a southern bend to it.
A southern pop combo.
And years ago it might have seemed dated, but now all of that's coming back.
I find myself now at 42 still dressing like I might be in the Ramones.
One giant step for rock and rollers.
Proto-acoustic punk.
It wasn't punk, it wasn't rock, it wasn't pop. It was punk.
Pop music was what we actually did. That was what we performed.
Playing slasher songs on a banjo.
It was like bubblegum pop, but with this kind of punky edge.
I was so amazed by it.
The edgier pop punk thing, hence the name Pock. You take the two and you mix it together. It's a pretty interesting, diverse cultural thing.
What did Pock mean? It meant dragging the lead singer around by his ankles.
Bonnington Truce, even in its time, was just another southern pop band.
And I was its main proponent.
A pockmark, boils, scabs.
Hot buttered pop, yes.
Pockhorns.
Hot buttered popcorn is the hot buttered pockhorns.
Nice fat sound.
These poor guys, we were playing keys that were basically wrong for horn.
Oddly enough, Bonnington Truce was ahead of the ska beat. We didn't even know it. Punk, new wave, alternative, I'm not sure what you would call it.
There's this classic sort of melding of what is now classic rock, which then was just considered sort of retro. And that mixed with new wave, punk, it was all starting to come together.
I cut through the bullshit of all the REO Speedwagon and Journey and the disco mess that was finally getting killed off.
Some mixture of the punk alternative and their own little sounds that were thrown into it that made it, I guess, POC as it was deemed.
A way to have a good time and be yourself and not worry about if anybody thinks you're odd.
People thought we were odd and strange.
That's POC. It's pretty bad stuff. Pretty bad stuff.
We're Bonnington Truce. Good night.
The Making of a Movie, starring Bonnington Truce as themselves. 25 years later, man.
Where are they now? They're in an elevator! No!
You hardly need drumsticks to play Patrick's stuff. You know, get a baseball bat, cut it in half, beat the shit out of something. If you do it in rhythm, that's a Patrick song.
This is Homestead, Jeremiah's, Gerrymander.
Every place we played, but they always hated us.
Every club in the world.
They probably need to stop here and let me develop my Patrick spiel.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know people wanna cut their hands.
Pat got his axe going. I mean, the grit and grime of Campbell Swamp oozed out.
So he was able to write his own song, so that's about how it all began, you know.
He turned me on to the whole idea that, hey, wow, you can actually write your own songs.
He was a real songwriting machine.
He'd been writing songs from the heart since he was like 12 or 13 years old.
You just don't understand if you wanna make it here. You gotta be a hot rock and roll band.
Some of my favorite songs in the world were written by Patrick.
He was very prolific at that time, and all the stuff that he was writing was just fucking great.
Patrick's one of the most creative writers I've ever worked with.
You just don't understand if all the bands should sound the same.
Patrick was the quiet one.
The quiet one of the group.
Even when we got in trouble, he seemed like he was under the radar.
I never saw him look comfortable, except on stage.
When he was with the band, it seemed to bring him out more.
He was the living, breathing replica of Neil Young.
Patrick Wallace is the illegitimate son of Neil Young.
I guess when I first met him, he was in his first Neil Young phase.
He's gone through so many different phases.
Neil Young, Rocky Horror, what a cutie.
He could easily become someone else.
He went through a T-Rex phase where he became Mark Bolan for a while.
He was always either Neil Young, John Lennon. Last time I actually saw him, he was Prince in Mississippi.
He looked really good as Prince.
He wore mascara and makeup, and I don't think Neil Young did.
Patrick is out there, always has been.
I always thought he was kind of a fascinating guy.
And I thought Patrick was really neat to look at.
Sometimes Patrick could get off into his own little world.
Between probably T-Rex and Prince, he was Frankenfurter.
He just looked like a rock star.
Patrick's the only rock star I've ever known.
Be the beautiful monster.
We all wore lingerie and danced around my house. And Patrick, of course, was wearing a handcrafted lingerie by Janet Dudding. She sewed it for him so it looked exactly like Frankenfurter's.
People say I look like Frankenfurter.
It fit him like a glove.
I don't know why. I was looking for answers. Let it go. Let it fly.
The idea that we're not doing a reunion gig and getting all of us back together and doing it, it's kind of That's kind of insane to think we're doing this and that we can't do a reunion gig.
I think I want to see you dead.
First day of school, he wore a Rutgers t-shirt, so everybody called him Rutgers.
Oh my God! I am so sorry. I am so sorry about Rutgers.
The way I met him is I was walking down the hall and I could smell pot. So I knocked on the door, opened up. I said, "Hey man, y'all getting high?" He goes, "No." I said, "Well, that's too bad because I got some killer weed. Come on in."
Earl was definitely a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde personality.
He was sexy, and he was a singer.
Dynamic frontman.
Innocent and strange.
Earl always was one for theatrics.
He's the one who runs around with a leather jacket, screaming.
Oh, you must break free.
Earl's a showman, man. Earl's an actor. He'd break himself, just to have fun.
He was just kind of a mystical figure.
Remember the Scouts?
And he was always moving and jumping up and down.
A lot of energy and was very charismatic.
Little Hills in Blue.
Earl looked like the kind of guy on stage that every guy my age wanted to be.
Way to change.
He could really fly around the stage.
He did all kind of weird shit.
There is a way, Lundy. You can work within the system. Well, I've tried it and it sucked.
He's the one that created all of the posters, the little flyers and stuff that we put up.
Had a lot to do with the promotion of the band and the type of image that was projected.
I've coveted Earl's art since high school.
He's tonguing the microphone. What does that mean? You can't learn charisma. You can't teach charisma. This guy just had it.
It certainly didn't seem to bother him hopping around and flopping on the floor.
He had a lot of energy and a lot of charisma.
And he never seemed to have any visible means of support.
We were trying to take pictures of him, and he would not sit still.
He had the rhythm, and he had the voice.
Just kind of had his finger on the pulse of anything that was going on.
When he was on the stage, he was the guy that probably could scare you the most.
Living in a shoebox, living in a dirty sock, living with a door locked. I keep the blinds close to avoid shock.
Earl would actually be paying attention to the reactions of the audience.
He always reminded me a little of Bono when he performed. Very entertaining guy.
Earl was out for the best time that could be had. And when you was around Earl, you had a good time.
One more, come on.
That is sick. If you ever get a chance to see Jeff Bridges, that's the bass player Jeff Bridges, not the Big Lebowski.
Jeff Bridges.
He's been like a little brother to me from the start.
He was my stage right partner. We sang and played together a lot.
Jeff was the real quiet, even-tempered guy.
Jeff knew what the fuck he was doing. Jeff could really play the bass.
But one day, Jeff Bridges appears, straps on his bass, and suddenly the music started making a little bit of sense.
Make him shit, right, Jeff? That was the first song we ever wrote.
Original member of Bonnington Truce, without whom there would be no Bonnington Truce.
Jeff, my ex-brother-in-law.
Hey, Smiley.
If you forget everything about Jeff, it's that nickname.
No, Puss Bridges.
I'd never heard Smiley until like a month ago.
He was always smiling.
There is no one more smiling and sweet than Jeff Bridges.
Snapper Jeff.
That's it.
A.K.A. Road Horn.
Grass cutting and bass playing was definitely in his future, man.
Just Smiley Bridges is an angel.
Man, can he push that mower, Bubba? What you talking about?
Jeff never really had a lot to say. He laughed a lot.
I love Jeff's laugh. He just laughs at the world.
I liked when he laughed because he laughed loudly.
Jeff just always seemed to be happy and fun.
He was a happy guy, wasn't he? No matter what was going on, he was always smiling.
He was just such a nice fella, so down to earth and low key, and so straight. It was amazing.
guess maybe he listened to The Who a lot, because he played rhythmic parts and harmonic parts, as well as melodic parts.
Jeff is really the common denominator. He's really the catalyst for this whole thing.
But he was such a dead solid bass player.
I love his bass playing, very melodic player.
Absolutely holding the whole thing together.
Jeff was always on. He never missed.
He made us all sound better.
Best bass player I've ever known or played with.
The big chops all the time, the sideburns made him stand out on his own.
When Jeff would let his sideburns grow out, I always thought he looked like a Muppet, especially when he laughed.
Joffrey was always the glue.
Jeffy just sort of held the band together. He was the glue, the ties that bind.
Without Jeff, there never would have been that band.
He was just a special kind of guy.
Gonna find out what the score is. Thank you, that was an original song.
And this morning I'm going to my day job. Now I have a real job, so to speak.
Here's what we have done in a long, long time.
You always wondered why Hugh was in that band.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was always kind of strange how these guys attracted poor Hugh, man, and just sort of brought him into the fold. It was like this insanity clutched him, and suddenly he found himself behind the kits in the keg going, what am I doing with my life?
Where you going, boy? What you gonna do? Better be careful, but keeping the eyes on you.
I was really surprised to see Hugh O'Neill in a punk band.
Hugh might be kind of slumming it with us here, you know.
He was about as far to the other end of the spectrum from Earl as you could get.
I know that we communicated when we were playing. I know we did, but I don't think we ever talked. And he didn't like my songs.
There were several drummers, you know, just like every other band, drummers.
Where you going, boy? What you gonna do?
He plays drums occasionally. You know.
His playing was always very smooth. He's a great drummer, and he's a real nice guy.
He was a legendary drummer.
He would be in the back, just hammering away at the drums.
Every single beat right on, and you know, good taste the whole way through.
He always had that 1969 Ford panel van with the airbrushing on the side that just always reminded you of just returning from Woodstock.
I probably lived in his house more than I lived in my own, actually.
He's kind, he cares.
He seemed to be maybe more of the grounded one of the bunch.
He absolutely loves music more than anything.
Hugh always had a lot of girls running after him, too.
He seems like a really nice guy. I wish I could be as mellow as he is.
Hugh loved to sing, and he really wasn't a great singer. He had one song, and that was his claim to fame. Not a good singer, but loved to sing.
He was the shit. He was a legend.
Just Hugh always struck me as the kind of guy that, at least in his own head, he was saying, I'm having a good time, but I'm not going to be doing this forever.
Wants to do it one more time?
I might swim to the States, but I'm sure as hell not taking a goddamn airplane.
From the moment you get past what they call security until the moment you leave the airport of your destination, you are de facto a fucking prisoner. You are in a totalitarian state. But I do my part for security. I raise dogs, and as you can see, we have Eula. She's a Catalonian sheepdog. She's fluent in 2 languages. I've been raising genitalia sniffing dogs since I was about 4 years old. And I've got to say, she's really good at it.
People have called me disgruntled and a dissenter. And they're right. And, you know, it's no fun. It's no fun. I'm not having a good time seeing all this stuff happen. I'm not having fun, you know, like complaining about it. I'm not having fun being disgruntled.
I think Ben had he was very caustic at times. He was very
acetic at times. Now, this caustic and this acetic coming together doesn't work.
Everybody's going insane. Everybody's going insane. Everybody's going insane. Everybody's going in.
Ben Young is a fine, outstanding individual. Where is Ben Young?
I still have a vision of him in my head. Having kind of shortish, reddish, brown hair.
Ben was just as nice a guy as you can imagine. Just loved music.
Ben was a complete asshole. I loved Ben. I loved him. He made my heart pound.
Quite the attitude, Ben Young. Very opinionated. Don't argue with him. You know, he's gonna change his mind.
I've heard of someone named Ben Young. Apparently he wrote songs.
I was reminded that he was on the cutting edge of absolute insanity.
This has been a long time now, but Ben was one of the more civilized members of the group, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Ben was probably the most aggressive person I ever met.
A rowdy soul, and he was a damn good guitar player. Good singer, too.
I was never really friends with Ben. There's no reason for that.
Ben intimidated the shit out of me.
Sort of a combination of circus rock, burlesque.
Beer and cigarettes. He always said, you know, the essentials first.
Ben was the reason I got back to playing music.
Ben was like a real songsmith. Ben could really write.
Ben, oh, wild thing.
He was really smart and wanted you to know that.
I know he lives in Europe now, and I always back then even thought he seemed kind of European.
He has his continent, I have mine. Works out, he doesn't like to travel.
He's paranoid.
Yeah.
And he just, something about the RS.
We're picking up Mr. Ben Young from coming in all the way in from Madrid, Spain.
I think he snuck himself in a case.
Ben! Where are you, man? Ben Young! Anybody seen Ben Young? Ben Young, ladies and gentlemen, has arrived in America.
Yeah, well, that was a moment's peril, wasn't it? I got there jet lagged as a motherfucker and clearly had to sleep it off.
He wanted a smoking room and a bar nearby that allowed smoking.
A smoking room and a smoking bar.
I think he said they don't have a PA and it was bring your own chair. Also.
The Hall of Fame, is that what it's called? Oh my goodness.
What an impressive name, huh?
It is indeed.
Check out the backdrop.
Wait a minute. We can do some rehearsals right now.
3, 4, ba-da-da-dum, 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 bang, bang, bang.
I'm sorry, I fucked it up early.
1, 2, ready, go.
I'm standing up, for God's sake. I mean, come on. Let me sit down. This is a sit-down song.
Deconstruction my ass. I ain't living in the past, but losing all the blue coats left. All brothers need to scheme.
This isn't working as well as I'd hoped.
Like a country mouse.
There is a song that I think is wonderful. It's traditional. Well, it's a cruel world we live in. We had this sort of a reggae thing going, slightly reggae.
Chorus?
Offbeat, yes, this is the verse, okay? It's a cruel world we live in. You're no help at all. It's a shame what you did to your name, which would be your chorus. The higher you fly, the harder you're gonna fall. It's a shame what you did to your name. Well, you're playing with the wrong guy. I'm gonna make a scene, man. Tell me this, tell me that. You don't tell me where it's at. Then you do that. Who needs you? You had your fun, what, 4
Boy, you run a nunnery. You think it's funny. Well, who needs you?
I know this song, Ben Young, 'cause I played it 20 years ago. 1, 2, 3.
We're Bonnington Truce. Thank you so very much. Good night.
Mississippi, you don't know me, so don't you come round talking like you told me. You never had my burning city, never seen the nitty gritty, never had it half as shitty as the folks in Mississippi. Don't you know my name? Mississippi raised me up in shame. Time will tell if we can break the spell that had us held out for so long. Now Mississippi, you don't own me, but your sacred institutions bought and sold me. You're always first to blame and judge, hold a gun or rope a grudge, always had an ugly smudge upon our history. Mississippi, my ass, I ain't a living in the past, but with all the blue coats left, oh brother, need to see me. I have lived the chimney bell, I have drunk from moonshine spells, I've watched the cotton fields fill up with human misery. In Mississippi.
Playing music, well, that was fun because we got to, do our thing, and they'd give us free beer and stuff like that. We'd be partying our asses off on stage, and we'd actually get paid for it. Can you believe that?